everyone, and welcome back to the When We Were Kids Time Capsule Toys Podcast. Toy Hile returns October 12th. We have Wardlow, and then I'll have some more guests announced once we get the flyer. So, that's that. Hey, and make sure to always check out Time Capsule Toys. Open 7 days a week in Niles, Ohio, in the Niles Park Plaza. This week, we have longtime friend, shop owner, Clifton. He runs Happy Pappy's action figure Extravaganza, based out of the very busy Canton, Ohio. So we're going to start this off, which we actually started talking about this beforehand. And because I wrote these notes, I wrote my notes like last week. My memory's terrible. So I wrote my notes. And then me and you were talking, and right when I opened my notebook, I'm like, oh, that's actually the first thing I had written. So tell us about the origin of the name of Happy Pappy's action figure Extravaganza.
Well, it's a multi-answer. First, I used to work with this guy at the tattoo shop, because I've been tattooing for 27 years. He used to call me Pappy for some reason. And also my kids, they call my dad Pappy. So that always stuck in my head. And I was like, I want a really long name. Just like some of the 80s punk and hardcore bands, or in the 90s and early 2000s hardcore and punk bands. So I was like, I know Pappy's going to be it. And I said, toys make you happy. So, Happy Pappy's action figure, because that's mainly what I deal in, along with some nostalgia. But then Extravaganza, because it's always a party.
Extravaganza. It is always that. And when you say Happy Pappy, one, it rhymes. Two, yes. I don't think I've ever seen you mad.
Well, I'm glad, because it takes a lot to get me mad or on my bad side. So don't do that, Rick.
Oh, I do it with everybody, I guess. So now, speaking of how nostalgia and all that stuff makes you happy, Pappy. Growing up, what were the toy lines that captivated you to keep you basically collecting and then opening up the shop?
So there's many toy lines, but I remember when I was first going to kindergarten, I rode the bus, and I never met the neighbor next door, and that was the first time I met him. He was on the bus back probably 5-6 seats, and he had this Darth Vader toy, and he was playing with it on top of the bus seat, and I'm like, man, what is that? I had toys. I had Adventure People and stuff like that, but I never really had action figures at that point. So I was about 5 or 6. And that is what drug me down a rabbit hole of the action figure. And then, I got toys for Star Wars, and then G.I. Joe hit. And G.I. Joe was a huge thing because my grandfather was in the Navy. He was in World War II. And I just thought it was awesome. You got these, you got these action figures with realistic rifles, and then after that, Motu came, and Motu was a huge thing for me. And then the big rubber wrestlers, I used to love those and beat my brother up with them. We would throw them at each other, and it just onward. So I would say Star Wars, G.I. Joe, and Motu are probably the top 3 that really got me into the action figure realm.
Okay. So speaking of G.I. Joes, what would you say is your favorite Joe?
My favorite Joe, it's one of 2, so it's tough. One day it was one day it was the other. So it was either Spirit or it was, why can't I think? Shipwreck. And Shipwreck was because my grandfather was in the Navy, and he had a tattoo, and I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome.
Shipwreck is like so ridiculously hard to find out because everyone's troop building them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's just stupid, like how hard it is to find one, especially complete. Growing up, I'll never forget. I only had two Joes. I had Lifeline because he was a serial mail away,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it took like 4 to 6 weeks to get them, and it was the longest 4 to 6 weeks you can imagine. And then I got birthday money the one year. I had $20, and this is literally all you could get for like $20 back then when I was a kid. I bought, was it Undercover Donatello, the one with the hard coat, not the cloth coat one.
Yeah.
A Hot Wheel, which was Shark Cruiser. Don't ask me why I remember this stuff. And then the only G.I. Joe on the peg hook at Ames, which was Saw Viper. So those are the only two Joes I had as a kid. And I ended up picking up a carded Saw Viper a couple of years ago. But yeah, those are the only two Joes I ever had.
So a really fun story about G.I. Joe. My dad built us this toy box. For some reason, my dad always wanted to build things for us, which was whatever. And it was probably a 2-foot by 6-foot piece of wood, and I would say it was about 3 feet tall. And that's where we put all of our toys in it. And my brother and I, we would go and get inside of it. And it really hurt because, all the toys poking you and whatever. And, we didn't care if we broke them. But we would pull out all of the vehicles and throw them all over the floor like it was a junkyard. And we would have a battle throughout this junkyard. And it wasn't just Joe's, because we would lay out the Joe's and we would, pick one at a time of who we are. But then we would bring in whatever action figure we had, throughout. So, they were the aliens or whatever.
Yeah.
Or giants.
I have my own toy box story. Oh, you mentioned that. Growing up, I had that Masters of the Universe bench that was made out of like particle board that you'd be able to open up, and it was also a toy box. I loved that thing to death. It was like my favorite thing ever. I loved just sitting on it. I'd always hide in it. I don't know why, but I did. And one day, I guess I was too big for it anymore, and I crawled inside of it, and I busted the bottom of it out. And my dad took it and threw it in a burn pile.
Oh.
And he was like, and just burned it. And a couple of years ago, I ended up getting it from my birthday. I was surprised with it. Scott, our mutual friend Scott, he took it home with him because Amanda bought it for me because it was missing like 2 pieces or whatever. So he had to like put it back together for me with the 2 pieces. And then I had to go to his house and pick it up. And he just like had it in his driveway. But I was like, oh my God.
Did you try to get in it?
Oh God, no. I think he may have reinforced it so I can climb into it.
Right.
But no, I didn't. Because I'm like, I don't want this stupid. And I like every time my kids get near it, I go, don't sit on it. They don't break. Because it is like, it's literally like a stage above cardboard. That's like what they were built out of.
For sure. Did I cut you off?
No, go ahead.
Another one, like my grandfather, the one that was in the Navy, he was a huge wood builder, and I really wanted that flag super bad, But I would say we were poor, but I still got action figures all the time because they were fairly cheap. And I asked my grandfather, since I couldn't get one, I was like, do you think you could build me an aircraft carrier? Because, you were on one and everything else. And he was like, I'll build you something. And lo and behold, what's he build me? A house. He built me a G.I. Joe house. And the steps were correct, but they did not work with G.I. Joe legs. So I got a G.I. Joe house instead of the aircraft carrier.
What did you say to him?
I just looked at it and was like, I guess I'm just gonna play with it. I wanted to be respectful because he took his time to build me something, other than whatever else he was working on at that time. But I was bummed. But in hindsight now, I wish I still had that house. I had it for a long time.
So you clearly weren't a brat.
At some points, there were some times, but yeah.
We built you a house. I want an aircraft carrier. Here, I'll build you a house. Oh my God. I'd be like, Dad, to the burn pile.
Right.
So, like, everyone everyone we know, everyone's shops are like all different and stuff like that. With your shop, does it reflect like your personal collection? Because I know some shops you'll go to, and they'll have like a huge section of like Masters of the Universe, because that's what they're into, or they'll have like a ton of whatever because that's what they're into. But then there's other shops that just have like huge sections of stuff that the owner's personally not into.
Mm-hmm.
So so basically my question is, does your shop represent your personal collecting?
I would say yes and no. I do have a really heavy Star Wars section. I personally think it's probably the biggest in Northeast Ohio with Star Wars, and I do collect Star Wars. And before I decided that I was opening a shop, that's all I sold was Star Wars, just because I collected the vintage. So yes and no. Like I'll buy Star Wars and whatnot, but I really enjoy collecting 80s TV stuff. That's what I mainly work on, or the really knockoff toys like Star Road Raiders or Dragon Riders of the Styx or stuff like that. So yeah, I guess if you need Star Wars, we have tons of it.
I like asking this question because it always brings up lots of memories for people. And I'm going to do it like every episode because I love hearing these stories. Do you remember your best Christmas memory? Like the Christmas that you had that was like absolutely like the best.
Oh yeah. So that Christmas, my grandmother, and this is was probably my ultimate favorite. I was huge into Batman. I had a Batman Mego back in the day. I never had the car, and I had Robin. I always wanted to be Robin for some reason. I had tons of underoos and whatnot.
I was going to ask if you said you really wanted to be Robin, if you just ran around the house in slippers and underwear.
Oh yeah, no slippers, because I hated things on my feet. I grew up in Kentucky. Come on. But my grandmother, she bought me the Superpowers Batman, Robin, and the Batmobile. And I know I got a ton of other things at my mother's house and my other grandmother's house, but that always sticks in my head. But I was also a jerk at that Christmas because my cousin got the same exact thing. So, yeah, I was irritated that he got it, but hey, whatever. At least he didn't have to play with mine.
That's probably why they did it, because they knew that you wouldn't want to share.
Oh, no.
But then they're like, why is he so mad? He doesn't have to share now.
Right.
Do you have a worst Christmas experience?
Multiple, and I would say, is it childhood or nowadays?
Childhood. The childhood one, we're adults. It's
Right.
never a good Christmas for us anymore.
No, because everybody thinks you're into something and they get you said thing that's in that line, and it's just
Like, I know you needed a hammer, so I bought you socks with hammers on them.
Right,
It's like,
right.
Why would I want that?
Or I got you a Darth Vader helmet or a hammer.
Whenever
Let's
you
see.
hit something, it just goes.
I think the worst Christmas is because after a while you could look at the box and know what it is. Could you do that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Sometimes it'd be in a bigger box, and I'd be like, oh my God, I got this.
Mm-hmm.
I get so excited, and I open it. I'm like, no, that's not what I thought it was at all. Like, what is this?
So I remember it was when I was almost phasing out of toys, and my brother and I wanted the Nintendo NES because my dad loved him to death. But every time we would get something, say we wanted Atari, what did we get? An Intellivision, which it was more expensive and everything, but you did not get the excitement of having the Atari. Or, I remember one time he brought us a Tandy computer, and we were like, what are we going to do with this? There was nothing. Or back then, we wanted a VHS player. What did we get? A Beta.
Oh my God.
So, and I get it because he wanted to spend his money, and Beta was better, and so was Intellivision and everything else. But we always got that. So we did not get the NES that year, and I was kind of bummed. But that was the same year that I got my first CD player. And, then everything takes a turn after you find real music.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned CD player, because I remember I have many, many, many of bad Christmas memories. I have more bad than good.
Wow.
Because every year I make that list. I always put everything I wanted on it. Why did I would get like one thing that was on the actual list.
Mm.
So, one of my worst stories is, because you mentioned CDs, I'll mention my CD story. So I was 8th grade, finding my way into my teenage years, super into like rock and punk music, wanted a CD player. All my friends had CD players. I was like, I need a CD player so bad because everyone else has one and I don't. I'm still buying cassettes. I got a CD player. I was so excited. I have one CD to open. And I just kept telling myself, please. There was like literally only 2 damn CDs I wanted.
Uh-huh.
Green Day Dookie, Offspring Smash.
Yeah.
Those were the only 2 I wanted. I opened it. It was Aerosmith Big Ones. My mom's response was, I bought that so I could listen to it. Thanks. My gift. But you bought it so you can listen to it. Because I hate Aerosmith with a passion. But like one of the gifts I remember I was stoked to actually get that was on my list was there was a remote controlled car. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember them. It was called Ricochet.
I remember them. I can't see them right now.
They pretty much looked like a pill with big rubber tires because you were supposed to be able to drive them downstairs, off cliffs,
that's right.
whatever else.
And they would drive upside down too.
Yeah, and they would drive upside down.
Yeah.
Or you can like flick the remote real fast and it would flip itself like this.
Yeah.
I was so happy to get it. And then find out that you have to have the battery for it charged for 24 hours.
Nah, that's the worst.
Kids won't understand the pain of Christmas mornings anymore because when I got that, I was so excited. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to drive it down the stairs. I'm like, what do you mean I got to charge it for 24 hours?
Yeah.
I was so bummed. But the next day, I was thrilled because I'm driving it down the stairs. My parents are yelling at me. You're messing up the paint on the walls. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, it's Ricochet. I need one of those now. I'm gonna have to go find one.
Yeah, you're gonna have to find one. And the thing was too, like a lot of stuff that we got was battery operated, and back then, if you didn't buy batteries, you were not getting batteries for like days.
Yeah, because batteries weren't included.
Right.
Ever. And a lot of the toys that we had as kids too.
Right.
That like vehicles and stuff like that. A lot of them didn't come with action figures.
Right.
Only the larger G.I. Joe vehicles are the ones that came with figures.
Yeah.
The smaller ones, that nice little fine print at the bottom, action figure not included. Like you'd get like say like the Cobra Asp. I don't know why that just popped in my head. You'd get that. You'd see all the guys on the cover of the box. You'd be like, "Oh my god, this is so awesome!" You open it, you're like, "I don't have anyone to drive the stupid thing.
Right.
I have no one to shoot. Like, what am I supposed to do?" Like your parents are like, "You can't get. That was what you wanted." Well, at least that was my life. But I also never had the Cobra Asp, so there's that. Sorry. Growing up, well, I could probably guess what yours was because you got a house. Growing up, was there the toy that got away for you? Like the one thing you always wanted and you never got it?
So there was multiple ones. Let's rephrase something here first. Every week, I got $5 to do all the chores, and it wasn't just to sweep and mop or do the dishes. It was to go out and maybe cut the grass or go feed the pigs or whatever. So, if you didn't do it, your tally went down. So back then, $5 can buy me 2 action figures, and that's what I did. We got paid in like silver dollars, and you could buy at least 2 action figures and have enough for gum. And but there's multiple toys that got away, and one was the flag, and I did buy one, and I set it up for my son and stuff for him to play with, and I have one at the shop now. But that was a major one that got away.
What's some other ones that got away?
So some other ones that got away is just figures that I could not find. I could never find version 2 Snake Eyes ever. Never, and that's the one with Timber.
Oh, okay, yeah, the all black with Timber.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one time my brother went out with my grandmother and he found one, and I was so mad. We could play with it together, but it is what it is. So, that one got away when I was young as well. And a lot of times, after a while, there was all these odd lines that were coming out because you had your Motu and your Thundercats and everything else. But then you had, what is that, Lords of Power? Not Lords of Power. Is it Lords of Power?
Power Lords.
Power Lords. So you had Power Lords, and when you would go to the store, all you would see was, I don't know any of the names anymore.
No, I don't. I can't tell you a single Power Lord character's name.
And they never come in. So you would only see one guy on the peg. One line that I was ultimately mad at as a child, I was huge in Indiana Jones. Huge. And, I had the Kenner line, and then the LJN line came out, and, I had the 3, but you looked at the package, and you were like, where is Short Round? I need Short Round right now. I'm waiting. I wait a year, nothing. So, after a while, you forget. And then, when you get older, you see that they never produced it, or you'll see the hard copies show up on eBay, and you're like, there's my Short Round. And I still never got a Short Round.
They did a Short Round a year and a half ago, I think. They ended up redoing the Kenner Indiana Jones line for anyone who isn't aware. They ended up redoing it. They put out literally every character that Kenner did. Then they put out Short Round. They put out... oh my God! What are the other ones they put out? That weren't
his dad was Henry.
Yeah, that they previously weren't never released.
Yeah, another Sala in a different garb. I forget which one it's from.
Oh, they did Belloc, which Belloc was a mail away.
Right.
And then they also did him on card, or no? Or is he just a mail away?
Belloc was a Melloway in the Kenner line, but in the Hasbro, they did release that one
On
on
card.
card.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they never released the play sets, re-released the play sets, did they?
No, they after those. I want to say there was 2 runs. They were done because the movie didn't do well, and for some reason, Indiana Jones action figures do not do well in the store. They never have. I don't understand, but I was really hoping we would get more of the retro, unproduced figures.
Yeah, I always talk about this on here, and it's just always, I don't know, it's like a thing that sticks with my head that they're always, all these companies nowadays are just trying to feed off of our nostalgia for things.
Mm-hmm.
So like, but the problem is they're not giving us the stuff we actually want.
Right.
We want the stuff that never came out.
Right.
Like, we don't need more Indiana Jones wearing the hat and with a whip.
Right. Oh yeah.
We don't need more Cairo swordsmen.
Right. Oh, for sure.
We need the stuff that we never got when we were kids, like a Temple of Doom.
Yes. We need a Temple of Doom, or we need the Boulder Chase, or, all
Yeah.
kinds of things.
Like, that goes for many toy lines. So, like, that's another thing I always like to ask. If you were able to resurrect a toy line that you feel that didn't get enough love, what would that toy line be?
That's a really tough one. Like I said, I really like a lot of the knockoff stuff. But I think I would choose the Karate Kid, because the Karate Kid figures, I think they got some love in the very beginning, but then they just started mass producing all the same figure with a different color.
Yeah, for Karate Kid, they only released the Karate Kid himself. Oh my God, I can't remember their names. So the Karate Kid,
Miyagi,
Johnny.
What's I forget his
The
name.
House,
Yeah.
or the
House.
training center, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And then did they have a competition set or no?
They had it was cardboard, and it was for the All Valley. It was the All Valley set, and it came with a referee. It was a piece of cardboard and then some cloth or whatever went over it. And then after that, they didn't really do much with it, other than you could get his headband and whatnot. I think I would just revisit them. Obviously Reaction has revisited them and did stuff, but
It's reaction.
it's Reaction, right?
With the Karate Kid, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff you can do. They have
yeah.
3 Karate Kid movies.
Oh, yeah.
They had the next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank.
No.
They have the TV show, all that stuff, and going back to also the place that you talked about being made out of cardboard, which a lot of people may or may not remember that cardboard play sets were a huge thing
Oh, yeah.
when we were kids, and the problem now is trying to find them. Is they're impossible to find because they were cardboard.
What do you think the toughest piece of cardboard is to find in an 80s toy line?
Cobra Missile Command Center.
I think that one's really tough, but I think Point Dread, the computer, is a very tough one to find as well.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember it as a kid, so I must have threw it away.
It's just the cardboard pieces to that stuff is like mind-boggling to me about how hard it is to track down. Like
Yeah.
the Cobra Missile Command Center. I cannot tell you. Well, I can tell you. I've never seen one
Yeah.
because the whole thing's cardboard, and you could only get it from Sears.
Right.
So, never saw one. And if I do see one, it'll probably be in like pieces held together by tape.
Oh, yeah.
the 3 cardboard pieces that go inside Castle Grayskull.
Very tough.
It's always the one piece. It's always the hardest. Like the one with he looks like an old school deep six or old school diver.
Yeah.
That piece is like always easy to find, but it's like the other pieces. And I'm trying to think of some other cardboard pieces that are impossible to find.
For the Cantina Star Wars, it's a tough one to find. The one that goes on the back. Which
the backing piece.
Yeah. Which they reused that mold, and it was for Butch and Sundance. So it was a bar saloon. That one's a very rare one it's hard to find as well. Like, it's even more rare than, I would say it's up there with the Missile Command.
I didn't even know that existed. So that will now, for me, beat out the Missile Command Center, because I did not know that was a thing.
It was all I loved Cowboys and Indians when I was younger too. So I do have a soft spot for all of those cowboy figures back then, like the Wild West stuff. And I do have I think I have the complete run of Butch and Sundance with the cardboard and stuff. But if you find a boxed one, which I rarely see, they're over a few $1,000s.
Yeah. You talked about you like collecting stuff from like TV shows and stuff like that, but like I don't know why this popped in my head. One toy line that I want to know why they made it. It just popped in my head. Mm-hmm. One, why they made it. 2, why did they make one like it had to have been like 16 inches tall? Just one figure. Mm-hmm. They made an arm wrestling table. They made an arm wrestling table for the figures. Mm-hmm. Which was over the top.
Right.
The Sylvester Stallone movie, which if you've never seen it, it's ridiculous. But it's all about Sylvester Stallone's character. He wants to win an arm wrestling competition and like prove to his kid that he's a good dad. I don't know why that had a toy line, mm-hmm. Number 1, because I don't think any kid was rushing out to watch Over the Top.
No.
2, I think that is one toy line that I would probably throw out there as you could probably make money off of it now, because the amount of the money of the figures are going for from that line is like stupid.
Yeah.
Like years ago, we had the figure arm wrestling table sealed on card because they did like 4 or 5 figures for that line. And they did like that 16-inch Lincoln Hawk, which they never did any other figures for. Right. So who's he supposed to arm wrestle? Mm-hmm. Then they made an arm wrestling table for you to use as a kid, which I found that at Hartville Flea Market years ago for like $5.
No.
And it was like covered in like black mold, but I still bought it.
Right.
I'm like, I've never seen another one. Mm-hmm. But I think that's one toy line this week that I would consider bringing back, because I actually just watched like Over the Top like 2 weeks ago. And watching it, I'm just like, this is so ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
But there's something about older movies that just feel different than newer stuff. So, like, if you put those figures out there, you're just going to trigger that nostalgia of your dad dragged you to the theater or dragged you to the video store so he can watch Sylvester Stallone not blow people up, but win arm wrestling matches.
Yeah. But I think the best thing is when he turned that hat around, he tucked down those people.
Yes, he did, because as he says in the movie, this hat,
right.
It's like a switch.
Right.
Like this truck. He taps on the truck. And the funny thing about that movie is there's a scene in the movie The Wizard where Jenny Lewis opens the semi-truck door. It's the Hawk hauling truck from Over the Top. The next scene, when she gets out, there's a blanket over it to cover up the fact it said Hawk hauling. That's a movie that you can just like pick apart.
Oh, yeah.
It's stuff like crazy, because like one scene there's like a truck that has a tree in the back of it. It has no leaves. Next scene it's filled with leaves. The movie's so bad it's amazing.
I wonder why we never got a toy line for Back to the Future.
That is crazy to think about, because I never thought about that. And it was huge. Huge. It still is huge.
Still huge.
And the only figures we even have that they released were NECA, and then a lot of like just DeLoreans put out by different companies.
Right.
We never got actual like playable action figures.
Right.
I never thought about that.
And I think it would have done really well back then, you know. But, you know, because you could get the car, you get the watchtower, you could get, you know, Marty and everybody else. And
when part 3 comes out, you can get the train.
right, you get the train, you get them in cowboy suits, you know, get them in space, you know, all kinds.
Possibilities are endless.
It is.
Yeah, that's crazy. They never released a toy line back in the day. Because, like I said, that movie was such a hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they missed out on so much money. But I think about that a lot with certain, even cartoon series and stuff like that. Like, how did they never put out toys for this?
One of my favorite TV series, or it was a mini series, was V. And they had the green light for, because they had a bunch of pictures of the toys that they were going to release, but they never released them.
They only released, The Visitor?
Well, yes, they only released the Visitor, the 12-inch one where the face came off, and then it was either Mexico or Argentina where they released a bunch of, you know, not so good looking toys, which now they're really expensive. But I thought that line would have done well.
Back to the whole thing about Grails. As a kid, you wanted the flag super pad. As an adult, what is your current Grail?
My current Grail right now, so I collect also pre-production toys, and I don't find them. Well, I do some lines, but I mainly focus on Clone Wars, Star Wars. And as of right now, I would like to have an Ahsoka Tano from that line. So 2008, I call it the first 27. So that's what I'm really looking for, because I'm trying to finish out a full run. So that would be one of them. But if I go into vintage, I would say my Grail, you know, it changes from day to day. I would like to finish my Staroid Raiders line, but that's a tough one, because I do have a lot. I have a lot of big things that I've found through the years before they've gotten way out of hand. So I don't really know vintage wise. I would really like to have the Last Starfighter hard copies, but with what the guy put the price as, I don't want
I remember this surfaced a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And his price was bananas.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he's like, I ain't taking any less.
Yeah. He just posted them recently in a Deal or No Deal page that I'm in, and I think it was over 50,000 of what he want, but they're not worth that.
Yeah, the last time I saw it, he put them. They were sitting in a shop, I believe.
Yeah,
on a shelf.
Yeah.
And I think the price tag was $50,000.
No. I think he owns a store in California, and they made it into one of those books. I forget who did it. It was like toys, not toys that Time Forgot, because that's a store here, but it's something like that.
Yeah, no, there's a book called Toys Time Forgot too.
So they were focused in that one of those books.
Okay. I honestly don't remember how we met at all. But my guess is it had to have been because of toy shows.
I would think so, yeah.
I have a terrible memory with when I meet people. I just assume I met you here. Because I don't go very many places.
Yeah.
But we probably met at a toy show. So one thing I like to ask shop owners is, I'm a big fan of best stories and worst stories. What is your best toy show experience that you think you've had?
There's so many, and
Like the one that sticks out to you, like the best sales, or like someone just walking up to you with Last Starfighter prototypes.
Right. So I would say, I've been doing toys for a long time, but not consecutively. And one of the best times is when I hit a crazy amount of money for that show. And, and I was like, wow, you could really do this much and walk away. And it all depends on what you have behind you or in front of you,
Yeah.
at your table. And I would say that was the best. And every person that I talked with at that time, they were excited about adding it to their collection, or, I helped someone finish out a run or whatnot. So I would say that would probably be it, because there's so many good shows, and there's so many different things about what makes it a good show. Sometimes it might not be the best money, but you might have had the best conversation at that show,
Or had a really good time.
or had a really good time, or found something for yourself. And it's very tough to find stuff for yourself. Do you have that problem?
Oh, God, it's more than you ever know. Everyone's,
Oh,
what are you looking for? I'm like, it ain't here.
Right. Same.
It's like, why? What are you looking for? I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking for anymore half the time. I just uncovered, like, for me, yesterday I was going through stuff at the shop because I worked like all day. And I was like picking out stuff, digging through boxes and stuff like that. I unearthed army ants.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I forgot I even had these. And it triggered something in my head from being a kid. If no one remembers, there was this toy line called Army Ants. They were made by some toy company that I'm probably did not last very long. There was blue ones and there was orange ones. Mm-hmm. And they had like big yellow butts.
Yeah.
And they weren't expensive, but you got like 3 or 4 in a pack or something like that. I don't know. They were awesome. And I just unearthed them yesterday. I was like, oh my God.
I just wonder why their butts came off.
I don't know.
At first glance, you're like, are these erasers?
I think I bought mine at the Chicago Toy Show. Dude had them, and I just lost my mind.
Yeah.
This is one of those things I never see.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's one thing I'm looking for at shows now is army ants. So, so what was the first show that you did to where you're like, I can make money from doing this, and I can walk away with this much money? What was that? What show was that? So I can mark it in my books to make sure I do it.
Well, I'm sure it's still a really good show. I haven't done it in a while, but I do go to it every year, except I don't think I'll be going to it this year. I don't set up anymore. It was the ICCC.
Okay.
And that was back in 2018, I want to say.
Okay.
And that was when I was kind of getting back into toys, about 16 or 17. And I ran into a man that I knew from my hometown, which was 5 hours away, from where I live now. And he was like, hey, let's set up and do a show at the IC, because it was all Star Wars and that. And, and I did fantastic. Now I couldn't tell you. I go down for room sales because that's where the rare stuff really shows up.
That's where you're trying to find your Ahsoka Tano.
Right. And I don't want to pay for it because the last one I got outbid on was over $2,000, and it's not worth $2,000.
It's just the fact that she's like the hottest thing in Star Wars right now.
Right. And she will be the Boba Fett tax of the new generation.
That's a good comparison.
Oh yeah.
What's one of your worst toy show experiences? You don't say the name of the show. You can just say I told my experience about that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you were at that one where the guy was selling the dog treats, which someone actually commented on the video saying that pig parts are good for animals and No, yeah, sure they are, but they're not good for a toy show.
Yeah. So it was actually one of my first shows. It was actually my first show that I ever did. And this was back in, maybe 2000, anywhere from 98 to 2000, because I had a bunch of stuff. I want to say it was probably around 2000.
Wow, that long ago.
Yeah, that long ago. But then I took a break because I moved to Arizona.
Because it was so bad.
Well, I had some really good stuff at that time, and I'm kicking myself in the butt for selling the one particular thing. But I did okay at that show, but I had a Series 1 Garbage Pail Kid box because I had all of them, and I don't know why I wanted to sell them at that time. It was just because, it's my first show. I'm going to come strong. And I sold that thing for $250, which was market value for a sealed box. Now I'm really kicking myself because I can't get one under 10 grand. But I was selling this E.T. game, the vintage E.T. game that it's got the ghost and the E.T. figure and everything.
Okay.
And I was with a buddy of mine. So this guy, he worked at the tattoo shop that I worked at. His name was Doug Salogi. He used to work for Marvel, he used to work for DC Comics. He did a lot of the Judge Dredd. He did most of that series in the 80s and some Wonder Woman and a few Batman. But now he tattooed, and we nerded out. We went to the comic store every week and whatnot. So he's like, let me see that E.T. game. I'm like, okay. So I gave him the E.T. game. He opens it up, and what's in there? I didn't open it. There was porn in there. I was like, give me that. So, I take it, and I put it under the table, and I'm just lucky that no kid picked that up and wanting E.T.
That's a pretty bad show experience.
Right. So I would say that would probably be one of, nothing really happened, but that was one of the, it's a good story. And it was a bad experience as well because I could have sold that to anybody.
I have one. I actually thought about this last week or the week before. I was like, I gotta remember that and use it because doing so many shows, you have so many stories. There's so much ridiculous stuff that you go through between setup, tear down, and the people who just come through the door. I'll never forget. I was doing a show. I was selling something. It had been like $50, $60. And this guy goes, would you take like $40? I go, yeah, sure. And he starts handing me quarters. And I'm like, what? So it's a bunch of loose change. Then he starts handing me rolled quarters. I go, what's this? He goes, I'm paying you. I go, no, you're not. He's like, why not? I go, first off, it's Friday of the show.
Yeah.
I said, you really think I want to carry around $40 worth of quarters and random change? Mm-hmm. He's like, but it's money. I go, okay, then bring it to the bank and come back with dollars.
Right.
I said, because I'm not hauling around a bunch of change. Because I'm like, at this point in time, I was putting my money in my pocket for the most part.
Right.
And so I'm like, where in the world am I going to put $50 worth of change or $40 worth of change? I'll never forget that. And I'll never forget the look he gave me. Like I was crazy for handing him back $40 worth of. He had like 2 rolls of quarters, and the rest of it was all change. I could still close my eyes and see the look on his face. I'm just like, I don't bring loose change to shows. That is the lesson of today. Cash is king. A lot of us accept PayPal, cards, Cash App because that's the way the world is going now.
Right.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I like having the stuff. I like having money in my hands.
Oh, for sure.
But not change.
Yeah. Like $1, $2. I get it. If it's a kid, I'm just like, just take it. But yeah, it's a tough one. Have you ever? I can't remember. Did you set up at Chicago?
I go to buy.
Yeah.
And then I'll bring like my glass cases and just set up in the parking lot and sell whatever I can in the parking lot, and then just go inside and blow all the money.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame you. So my first year of going back to Chicago which I used to go back in the 90s, early 2000s, and then my first year was probably, I think I've been going now since 19, I think. Maybe even 18, I don't remember. So my first year back, I got in at the very end where all they had was, I think it was, I don't remember, rabbit or swine or whatever. It was you set up in the dirt. And it's the, the two buildings
That have
on
no
the outside.
sides.
Yeah. So it was the one with the dirt, and that was probably my worst experience because I had to leave my toys there overnight, and then all of my toys were so dirty
From the wind
from
blowing.
the wind blowing stuff, and stuff would blow away and whatnot. So that was probably my worst experience at a show setting up because I didn't know any better because I don't remember it being that way because I thought it was in the buildings when I would go. But it was really busy because at that time there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were six buildings. And
Yeah, for anyone who has never been to the Chicago Toy Show, I will always tell anyone you have to go to experience it. I call it the Wild West of toys
yes.
because one, you don't know what the world you're going to find there. Two, you don't know what kind of deal you're going to get on anything. 3, it pulls people from all over the world.
Yeah.
Like the shopping starts at the hotel, the parking lot, and then the show itself. It's just like in the building you just described, it has like no sides, it's just a roof. We found a guy there that had like a carded scratch. He had a carded hotspot, and he just had the stuff thrown into totes.
Wasn't he the one that was set up outside with no sides?
Yep.
That's insanity to me to have all
And the
of
wind
that.
kept blowing his scratch over.
Oh,
And I'm like,
yeah.
well, first off, I pulled it out and said, you should not have this just thrown in a tote.
Right.
Please put it on the table.
Yeah.
And he put it up on the table, and the wind kept blowing it over. And some dude walks up to him and goes, here, I bought you a case to put that in. And he's like, oh, thanks. I'm like, oh, my God. So give us a quick rundown of some of your favorite shows that you do.
Some of my favorite shows that I still do, obviously Toy Ohio. I do.
Cheap plug.
It's an okay show. No, I enjoyed that. I enjoy Xenia. Chicago is always good. Let's see what else. Joe Fest, I do enjoy it, which I did miss this year, but I do enjoy Joe Fest in Augusta, Georgia. So it's pretty much a lot. There's so many good Ohio toy shows. But then, I try to venture out a little bit more. I want to do the Maryland show, which I hear is a good show.
Maryland is one of my favorite shows to do because it's just the building I'm in is great. I love it. The other building, there's one vendor I buy from all the time, and he only sells there, and I think he's a hoarder.
Oh, okay.
So he like pulls stuff out, and like it's just like the stuff he has. It's just like the one time he pulled out, he had a carded web store. The top was cut off. $5.
Wow.
I'm like, is this $5 for real? He goes, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that. Thanks.
It's nice to venture out of your area because even when you do, you will know many people, because you'll be like, oh, I'm going to Chicago for the first time. You're depending on how deep you are in the community, you might know 100+ people.
Yeah, I had people in Maryland come up to me because they heard me talk. And they go, I recognize that voice anywhere. I watch your Whatnots. I'm like, oh, thanks. They go, sorry, this stuff I brought here is not Whatnot prices.
Right.
I'm like, this is where the good stuff comes.
I have people right now like, when are you coming back to Whatnot? And I'm like, you got to give me some time. I'm in the middle of something.
Yeah. Do you have any vintage toy trends at your shop? Like, have you noticed, like, why am I selling so much of this out of nowhere? Or why is this not selling?
All the time, because it makes no sense. And I'm sure you can vouch for it. I remember a few years ago, I had a great Joe case. I mean, it was fantastic. I couldn't sell a Joe at a show or at the store to save my life.
All right, that's us right now.
And I can sell vehicles right now, but I can't sell a figure.
We can't sell figures or vehicles at all.
Wow.
I don't get it. Another trend I've noticed too is Masters of the Universe is down.
Yeah.
Because I want to say it's just unsaturating the market.
Yeah.
Hasbro's, we used to be known as like the WWF Hasbro store because we used to have so many. Now, not now. Now it's like we're selling tons of 90s stuff.
Same. I'm selling tons of 90s stuff and Transformers I cannot keep. And it doesn't matter if it's G1 all the way up to brand new. I'm not a Transformer guy. I did have some as a kid. Jazz was my favorite. Obviously, Optimus Prime and Megatron were great too. But I don't know much about it. I'm just lucky I have someone, Aaron, that helps me out that knows Transformer because I don't know anything about it. And it's going wild right now. And before that, Turtles was going wild. Now I can't sell a turtle. Vintage Star Wars always for me sells well. I don't have a problem with that. It doesn't fly off the shelf like it used to. I don't feel most toys fly off the shelf anymore like they used to. But I still see people buying and everything, which is good. And I hope it continues.
Oh, it's going to continue because
Of course.
if you go into stores now, there's like nothing.
Right.
Like wrestlers, no wrestling. Turtles, it's the same stuff that's been sitting there. The Master Universe stuff, it's the same stuff that's been sitting there. Transformers. The Transformers they released a couple of years ago are way better built and done than the stuff they're releasing now. Between the packaging, the plastic, all that stuff. So basically, if you want a toy, you got to come to like Happy Pappy's. You have to come to Time Capsule Toys, Your Toy Connection, stuff like that. Because we're going to carry the stuff that you can't find in stores anymore that's actually built to pretty much be played with, unlike the stuff now, to where those Transformers, like you can't even transform them.
Right.
Because they're so crappy. They're crappy. They're made, the plastic just feels terrible. Like they're just bad.
Yeah, the ball joints fall off, when you're trying to transform them. You need Google, like a slow Google or not Google. You need a YouTube video to do it because
to learn how to do anything.
Because those instructions do not do anything.
Correct.
And a lot of people, I remember this one time, this little kid, and I love when kids come in and buy stuff. It's probably my favorite. He did buy a Sludge or whatever I had, modern Transformer, and he took it home and tried to transform it, could not transform it, and he brought it back, and he's like, do you think you could transform this for me? I said, no. I said, but you could have that one in the case, and I'll just take yours. I'll swap them, because I couldn't do it.
Well, I'm sure he probably loved that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I'm sure it's still sitting the same way because he couldn't figure it out.
I'm sure of that. Trust me. So, our last segment, I love doing these because it's nostalgia to the extreme, is my wish book wish list, my awesome wish book that I've been hauling around in my car for like the last week. Growing up, bed tents.
Oh, yes.
Just little tent things in general that would go in your bedroom. It's sleeping bags, which most people anymore are like, what's a sleeping bag?
Right.
So here we have the, there's some Batman one, because you said you were a fan of Batman.
Oh, yeah.
There's Batman, Ninja Turtles. The heck's that one? Is that like... Oh, that's G.I. Joe. So G.I. Joe, there's football, basketball. So, as a kid, did you have a sleeping bag or one of these? I don't know what you would call these tents. Oh, they're called. No, they're just tents.
Yeah, they're
Slumber tents.
Slumber tents. They made regular tents for the floor, or they made tents for your bed. When we were kids, until the age of 10, I had bunk beds, so we really couldn't have a tent on our bed, but we had tents. I had tons of sleeping bags. My favorite sleeping bag was the Superman sleeping bag that I had. Don't know why I had a Superman sleeping bag, because I was into Superman, but not like an Incredible Hulk or Batman or anything else. We did have what tent did we have? I want to say we had the G.I. Joe car tent, or not? I think it was the Jeep, the All Striker. Is that the All Striker? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the tent we had. But they would just get mangled, because we would wrestle. And
I always wanted one of the tents. I always wanted Castle Grayskull. Never got it. I only had one sleeping bag my entire life. It was a Michael Jordan one.
no.
And that was the only one I ever had. I was in Boy Scouts, and I had to go on a Boy Scout retreat. Temperature is supposed to be -5. And I had my Michael Jordan sleeping bag, and they go, we have to get you extra sleeping bags because your sleeping bag's only good up until 35 degrees.
And you're like, what does that mean?
Yeah, and then after that, I quit the Boy Scouts because I'm like, I ain't doing this shit anymore.
Right.
And I'm like, I ain't sleeping out in -5-degree weather. The next morning, I called my parents. I'm like, you need to come get me. A big thing, too, back in the day was ridiculous musical instruments.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up, did you have anything like that?
I think we had a guitar that
Was it Hot Licks? That was the name of the one. It had buttons on it, not actual strings.
Yeah, so it had buttons, and then at the bottom where you pick, it had this rolling black cylinder thing that you were picking at it.
When I was flipping through this, I saw this because once again, they don't make stuff like this at all anymore. They don't make guitars.
Right.
Any of that stuff. Growing up, I had hit sticks.
Yeah.
Which people may or may not remember. It was a little sound boombox thing that would clip onto your belt. Mm-hmm. And then there was cords that would go to the drumsticks, and you could choose the level of volume you wanted, and whatever you hit or even in the air, it would make drum sounds.
Yeah. Yep.
I got those one year for Christmas. I don't think I ever asked for them, but I got them, and I literally love those things so much. And I would just walk around and just air drum everywhere, and then my parents were like, "Turn that down." Oh, we got some flickering going on here because there's a monsoon outside.
It is.
Toys That Made Us is coming back, and that's why I decided to do this next piece for our final wish list segment. Growing up, Nerf was a huge deal, and it was everything about the 90s because it was all bright, ridiculous colors.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Growing up, was there any Nerf stuff, anything Nerf you had or Nerf that you wanted?
So my mother would not get us the actual guns or darts because she knew we would shoot each other, which that's what you were supposed to do. Obviously, she wouldn't let us take karate or anything, too, because we would beat each other up. But we had the footballs, the soccer balls, the basket. We had all of that. Even when they had the Nerf basketball hoop that would go on your door, we had that, which makes no sense. But in our room, it was one of those weird knee wall rooms, so we had nowhere to butt it. We couldn't dunk like Jordan. We did, but we never had that. My son now, huge into Nerf. Any type of gun and he's good to go.
Growing up, my cousin had the bow and arrow, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. But I always wanted the slingshot, or even that. But I don't even know what it was called. Let's see, B. The Nerf double barrel blaster. Always wanted something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, I never got it because they would know I'd be shooting my sisters with it. Mm-hmm. But that's when Nerf was good. Now Nerf takes batteries instead of just manpower. Mm-hmm. And now they hurt.
For sure.
Because they ain't hurt back in the day. Now when you have battery-operated Nerf guns, my kids play with them, and they start screaming and crying that they got shot in the face and everything else. I'm just like, I told you not to shoot at each other. But we all knew. As kids, we never listened.
No.
So, thanks for coming out and taking this time to talk with me. Make sure to check out Happy Pappy's Action Figure Extravaganza. And soon, Happy Pappy's Part 2, which, do you have a date in mind of when you think the second location will be opening?
So I was trying to have it opened last week because the Football Hall of Fame just started. And I couldn't make it because I was out of a few things. I just picked up some things. And I will know more by the end of the week, but I think in the next few weeks. It could be next week. It could be 2 weeks. I'm saying at least 2 weeks it will be open. And, it should be fun.
Well, like I said, make sure to check out Happy Pappy's Action Figure Extravaganza. And follow him on social media so you can figure out when his second location will be opening. And Toy Hio, once again, returns October 12th. Over 20,000 square feet of toys. Clifton will be there in his usual spot. We'll have all your favorite shops, random vendors, because we only had like 4 or 5 tables open up. So you're going to have a lot of usual people with all amazing things and memories. And don't forget to check out Time Capsule Toys, located in Niles, Ohio. We're always buying. Clifton's probably always buying too.
I'm always buying. I have a question for you before you sign out.
Yeah.
The last Toy Hio, everybody brought the fire. Where did it come from?
Dude, I tell everyone that no joke, the last two Toy Hios.
The last two, yes.
Has been crazy grails. Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
But I can tell you that I started hoarding, and I'm going to have some heat.
Oh, good.
I'm going to have a carded Haunted Carbonite.
Ooh, nice.
A carded Man. A graded die-cast TIE Fighter.
Nice.
I just got that. I showed it off a couple weeks ago. That 123 kid. Mm-hmm. Well, I just got signed by the 123 kid himself, and then I got JSA'd, so now it's certified and everything. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what else I've been hoarding. I'm sure there's gonna be lots more, but I tell everyone, bring grails. One, you don't know if you're gonna sell them.
Right.
2, it gets people talking about your table. Mm-hmm. But our vendors just always bring like the craziest stuff imaginable.
Oh yeah.
Like the one show you had amazing girls' toys that were sealed, brand new, that I've never seen before in my life.
Yeah. I picked all of those up when I randomly went on a toy pick in Florida. And I will do that every year. And then I'll just push out there like, hey, I'm going to be in Orlando. Anybody opening up their whatever said thing. And I left with so many good girl stuff. All the girl stuff. This show coming up, my booth's going to look pretty poor because I am working on the second location. But who knows?
Hey, you never know what's going to walk through the door.
Right.
During, for example, loading for the last Toy Hio. Literally, I'm in the back loading the U-Haul. Mm-hmm. Dude walks in with sealed Bionic Woman stuff.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, you never know.
No, you never know.
Never, ever, ever, ever. You could buy, like it happened to us. Like I just said, you could be buying grails the day before the show.
You can. Yep.
You never know what's gonna happen. And
You
like
can
always,
pick one up on the way to the show.
yeah, you don't know.
Right.
I did that one time. I had to make a detour to go pick up an invisible Michelangelo on the way to Xenia.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can promise you, the heat will be there. The heat will be there, and then as always, there's always gonna be tons of dig bins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like some dude at Last Toy House scored that black belt storage shell
Yeah.
for $3. $500 figure.
Mm-hmm.
And a $3 dig bin.
Yeah.
Never know what you're going to find at Toy Hio.
No, you
Never
don't.
know what you're going to find at any show. So make sure to support your local shops, support your local shows. And thanks everyone for watching. And we're listening. And we'll check you out next time.